I wanted to go camping in Colorado, one of the best states for camping. I had heard it had great scenery, wildlife, and hiking trails, so when I found a cheap cabin rental near a campground in the Rocky Mountains, I didn't hesitate to book it. I wanted a solo adventure away from the stress and noise of the city. The cabin was small, with a fireplace, kitchenette, and a bed. It was surrounded by pine trees and had a view of the snow-capped mountains. The campground was a few minutes' walk away, and there were a few other cabins and tents, but very few people. It was out of season, cold and windy. But I didn't mind. I loved the solitude and the challenge. On the first day, I explored the nearby trails, admired the scenery, and took photos. We saw deer, rabbits, and birds a few times, but fortunately no bears or wolves. Before dark, we returned to our cabin, built a fire, and cooked dinner. I felt relaxed and happy, enjoying the simple pleasures of nature. The next day, I decided to go for a longer hike to a lake about 3 hours away. I packed snacks, water, and a map and set off early in the morning. The hike was beautiful, but also tiring. The terrain was rocky and steep, and the air was very thin. I had to stop many times to catch my breath and rest my feet. But I was determined to reach the lake, which was supposed to be beautiful. Around noon, I finally reached the lake, and it was worth the effort. The lake was dark blue, reflecting the sky and the mountains. There were no signs of people, and it was calm. I sat on a rock on the shore, had a snack, and took some photos. I felt a sense of accomplishment and peace. I decided to return to my hut because it would take me another 3 hours to get there. The weather in the mountains was unpredictable, and I could see clouds looming on the horizon. I took the same route as before, hoping to save time, but something was wrong. I must have taken a wrong turn or missed a sign. The path I was on was unfamiliar and didn't match the map. I tried to turn back, but I couldn't find the right path. I panicked. I checked my cell phone, but it was out of range. I checked my watch, but it was broken. I didn't know where I was or what time it was. I kept walking, trying to find a way out or someone to help me, but I couldn't see anyone, just trees, rocks, and shadows. The sky was getting darker and the wind was getting stronger. I felt a drop of rain on my face and then another. A storm was approaching. I looked around and saw a small hut in the distance. It looked old and abandoned, but it was better than nothing. I ran towards the hut, hoping that no one was there. I reached the hut and knocked on the door. There was no answer. I grabbed the handle and the lock was open. I opened the door and went inside. The hut was dark and dusty, with cobwebs and broken furniture. It smelled of mold and decay. It was strange, but I had no choice. I closed the door and looked for a place to stay. I found a corner with a blanket and a candle. I lit the candle and wrapped myself in the blanket. I tried to calm down and wait for the storm to pass, but then I heard a noise, a creaking sound coming from the attic. I froze and listened, as if someone was walking slowly and heavily. I felt a sense of dread. Who was up there? What could they be up to? I hoped they didn't know I was there. I hoped they would leave me alone, but they didn't. The voice grew louder and closer. I heard footsteps coming down the stairs. I heard heavy breathing. I heard low, menacing voices. "Who are you?" I didn't answer. I didn't move. I hoped the hut looked empty. I held my breath and prayed. Footsteps stopped just outside the door. The sound of the handle turning slowly and silently was heard. The door opened with a creak. I saw a beam of light and a shadow. I closed my eyes and waited, but nothing happened. No sound, no gunfire, no attack. Just silence. I opened my eyes and looked inside. The door was open, but no one was there. There was no one in the hut but me. I was confused and terrified. What was going on? Who were they? Where had they gone? I stood up and took the candle and walked cautiously and anxiously towards the door. When I looked outside, I saw nothing but trees, rocks, and darkness. The storm had passed and the sky was clear. The moon and stars were shining, but they offered no solace. I felt alone and vulnerable. I decided to get out of there as quickly as possible. I didn't care about my belongings or the hut. I just wanted to be safe and alive. I ran towards the path. I didn't look back or stop. I kept running until I reached the campsite. I found my car and got in. I locked the doors and started the engine. I drove away without looking back. It didn't stop until I reached the nearest town. He checked into a motel. I have always loved camping, especially in summer. There was something about being in nature, away from the hustle and bustle and stress of the city, that made me feel alive and free. So I decided to spend a week at Falcon Ridge Campground, one of the best campgrounds in Wyoming. It was located near Grand Teton National Park and had spectacular mountain and lake views. I booked a tent site near the lakeshore and loaded all the necessary items into my car. Tent, sleeping bag, flashlight, knife, food, water, and a book. I arrived at the campground on a sunny afternoon and checked in at the office. The staff were friendly and helpful and gave us a map of the campsite and some key points. They also told me to watch out for wildlife, put my food in bear-proof containers, and avoid going alone at night. I thanked them and headed to my spot at number 13. It was spacious and secluded, with a picnic table, fire pit, and a beautiful view of the lake. I pitched my tent and decided to explore the area. I walked along the lake shore, admiring the clear water and the reflections of the mountains. I saw ducks and geese swimming and fish jumping out of the water. We saw other campers waving and smiling at us. Everyone seemed friendly and relaxed. I felt happy and peaceful. I decided to take a hike to a nearby lookout. The trail was well marked and easy to follow. I enjoyed the fresh air and the sounds of birdsong. After a few hours, I reached the lookout and was rewarded with a breathtaking panorama of the lake and mountains. I took a few photos and sat on a bench to rest and read a book. I lost track of time and didn't realize that the sun was setting. I knew I had to get back to the campsite before dark. We packed our things and started walking on the trail. I turned on my flashlight and followed the signs. When I was halfway there, I heard a loud roar behind me. I froze and slowly turned around, and there was a huge grizzly bear standing on its hind legs about 3 meters in front of me. It growled and bared its teeth. It looked very angry. I was terrified, and I remembered what the staff told me. Don't run, don't scream, don't make eye contact. Walk away slowly. I did what I was told and tried to calm myself down. I hoped the bear would lose interest and leave me alone, but it didn't. The bear started walking slowly and steadily towards me. I stepped back, shining my flashlight at the bear, looking for trees or rocks or anything that could protect me, but there was nothing. I was out in the open and there was nowhere to hide. I felt helpless and hopeless. The bear came closer and closer. I could see its claws and saliva. The bear suddenly stopped about 3 meters away from me. Then it turned and walked away. I was stunned and relieved. I had survived the bear attack, but I didn't know and still don't know why the bear saved me.